then all of a sudden, it was 5 years we lived there in Framingham, Mass. And all of a sudden he comes home one day and he says, I want to move back to Old Orchard Beach. And I says, oh, really? I says, how come? Did they fire you? And he said, no, but I want to go back and start teaching again. So he came back and he taught math and physics. And he was there, I can't remember offhand, for quite a while, but he coached football, basketball, and whatever else they needed him for. And so he had a good tenure at Old Orchard, and he loved teaching. So that was his favorite thing to do. Okay, and oh, it was great. I loved the beach. It was in the water every day. My dad came home from his work every afternoon, took me to the beach when I was like 4 and 5 years old, and walked the beach all day. And at night we'd have weenie roast right on the beach. We could take hot dogs and my father would start a fire on the beach. Now they don't allow that. But we had a great time when I was young. And then there was a swimming pool on one of the short streets going to the beach. And that's how I learned to swim in that swimming pool. It was the Bachelor Hotel at the time. And they had a small swimming pool. And so I was to be in that every day too. So it was great. I was there for years. And from I went to Biddeford High and graduated from Biddeford High in 1945. And from there I went to Gorham State Teachers College, which is the University of Maine now. And now what else do you want to know? On the main street, Old Orchard Street. And the telephone office was above the post office. I had to go up the stairs to the post office, and from the post office. And we had the drop system, which you never have heard of at your age. We didn't have a telephone that you picked up. You had to crank it, to get the operator. And when you cranked that phone at your house, cranked the crank, the drop fell down on the switchboard in the where the operation board was, and we'd pick up the number, and it would have a number on it, and you pick up the number and say, number please. And I worked there summers when I was still in high school, and I worked there about six years while I was in school, going to Gorham State Teachers College, and I worked there in the summer. And that was the extent of my work years in Old Orchard. And then when I was old enough, I went out kind of like on my own, And what else you want to know? And this, which was the big part of Old Orchard, was the Old Orchard Pier Casino.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to have big bands that came and played, and it was a dance hall. And they had all the big bands, and it was wartime. It was 1945. It was 1941 when the war started. So everything in Old Orchard was blacked out because we couldn't have any lights showing because of, the Germans or the Japs would see the lights and come in and bomb us. So everything was blacked out. All the street lights, even the car lights, were blackened on our cars. And but we had fun anyway. We danced in the blackout. But you used to have blackout curtains that you really covered the windows. And when we danced on the pier, they had blackout, big curtains that wouldn't show the lights. And also when we danced on the pier, before the dance bands would come on, they used to have movies. And when the movie was over, we used to sit in wooden chairs to watch the movies. Men would come and pull all those seats back so we could dance when the band came on the stage. But we also had a movie outside over the water, with a big screen over the water. And if you didn't feel like dancing, you could go out and watch the movie out on the balcony. And it was, a lot of fun. You don't have that anymore, dance halls. Okay, well, the recreation was great. And not only did we have locals, during World War II, the Navy boats used to come into Portland in the harbor and anchor, and all the boys that were in the Navy, if it was in the summer, they wore white uniforms. And when you went to Old Orchard, well, the whole town was full of boys that went into the service, and other boys that came in on the ships from other parts of the country. And it was just beautiful. Everybody was in white. If you were in the Army, it was like a light tan color that the uniform would be. You'd walk out on the pier. And then the gals, we never wore pants or slacks. Everybody was in a dress or skirt and sweater or whatever. No pants. You'd never see a girl in pants. And it was really pretty. Years ago, see all those white uniforms. The boys from Castine had the white uniforms, Maine Maritime, and everybody was beautiful. They looked beautiful. And when we went dancing, it was really nice. Oh, let's see, the beach. The beach, we'd meet all our friends on the beach and go swimming all the time. And if we worked, after work, we'd go to the pier and dance. We called it the pier. And that's what we did most of the time. Just hang out on the beach in the daytime. And if you worked, like I did in the telephone company, and I used to sometimes work nights, 5 to 11, and which was great because when I was working, if I had a 5 to 11 trek to work, I could stay on the beach all afternoon. And we'd meet, all the gals and the guys would meet on the beach. And we'd have a good time. They had big fire. Well, they had 2 big fires while I was young. And the whole Main Street went up. The wax museum, we had a wax museum, and it was just horrible. But I was working, and at that night that all the amusements went up in flames, and of course they put it out. It took quite a while to put it out, but there was a lot of damage done. A lot of the amusements were damaged. And then my daughter, could she come in and talk about this?
Sure.
She'll tell you about a fire.
Well, I was on the pier the night it started on fire in 860.
And it's on fire, and I says, get off the pier. And I says, don't go back on the pier, just get off the pier as fast as you can. And so she said, don't worry. And of course I was worried, so I got in my car and quickly went down because they closed the main street and everything. But the pier went up in flames, and we had a beautiful merry-go-round on the pier, and that we lost that too. That beautiful hand-painted horses, they were beautiful, and it was just horrible. I can't remember the other amusements, but of course the pier, I don't know, did it completely go down? And
just the front.
The front, yeah, just the front of the pier.
Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark, yeah, where that was. Do you know where Noah's Ark is?
No.
On the main street? No, okay. Well, anyway, it was a catastrophe. But they built it up. Well, my children were going to school, Old Orchard Beach schools, and my husband was still teaching, but so we were here, for good, because he was an Old Orchard boy, and I was really from Old Orchard. I consider myself, I lived in Biddeford and graduated from Biddeford High, but this really was my home. Old Orchard Beach was my home. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Do I ever? Of course I miss being a kid. That's when we had the most fun. Yeah.
Did you ever go to any of the, concerts at the ballpark?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because we had a ballpark too that they played baseball, but that closed. It was only open for about a year. I can't remember who played. You mean like a concert
Yeah.
in the park? Yeah, I guess I went to them, but I don't remember who I was listening to right offhand. I don't know. I can't remember.
No, did you ever meet a famous person that came down to play, at the?
Yes. They used to have bands on the stage, and they'd come and talk to the audience, and they'd introduce themselves because we knew who they were, and you wouldn't recognize the names of the bands, but there was Duke Ellington, Tommy Dorsey, Jimmy Dorsey, Satchmo, who was a great jazz musician. There was slews of them. So, they were all famous people, and the bands used to stay at the Brunswick Hotel, and they wouldn't travel, at night after they got through. They stayed at the Brunswick, but it was a different band every week. Yeah, so I met quite a few. Oh, no, it wasn't, no, I didn't go to the kite track. No, I didn't.
Were you on the beach when any of the planes landed?
Yeah. I've seen, they'd come in low tide, small planes would come in and land on the beach. And it was usually when the beach part was not closed, but later in the fall, because they couldn't land on the beach when people were sitting on the beach. Yeah, be too dangerous. But I've seen them land. But I didn't see
The Lindbergh?
the Lindbergh.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw the plane, but I never saw the Lindbergh, But I've seen that plane, which was an ice cream soda, and they sold ice cream in Sundays, and they had a man that played the organ in the background for real. He was a musician, and it was kind of lively, it was a nicely done restaurant, and I had a lot of my friends worked at it was called the Ocean Pier Spa. That was the nicest restaurant, but they had other restaurants, that, like the Brunswick was a hotel, but they had a restaurant in there, and actually there was a lot of stands that sold food, and you'd go to the French fry stand and could buy French fries, and they'd have benches on the sidewalk, and you could sit down and eat your French fries. And all over town, it was, you could sit and eat clams, fried clams, or on these benches that the town had put up. Yeah, it was a food town. We had all the amusements, Noah's Ark, you'd go into Noah's Ark. It was, you didn't do anything in there, but just walk around and be scared. And, they had a boat ride with water and everything, and it was dark, and you'd get into the little boat, and you'd go around inside they had it mapped out. We had a donkey ride. They pulled a cart that you sat in, and the donkey was ahead, and it would be all dark into the donkey trail, and that was another amusement. And the most fun was the roller coaster. And most of the kids that worked in high school, the boys worked the rides. And so it was fun. We'd get free rides sometimes. Yeah, but I didn't, my husband had passed away, and I went and did some substitute work
At Jameson?
at Jameson.
Oh,
And
that's great.
special ed.
Special ed?
Special ed.
Special ed, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Nice. Any other things you'd like to share? Any other stories you can think of, or you told us some great stuff?
How about your dance contest?
Oh, a dance contest?
Yeah, that was out on the pier, and that was a night when one of the big bands they were playing, and it was Tommy Dorsey, and my cousin and myself. Actually, my mother didn't really like me to go to the pier, but my cousin and I danced together, and he was like 5 years older. He was like a senior in high school, and so he kept asking my mother, "Oh, I'm going to the pier. Aunt Vera, would you let Elaine go with me?" And she kept saying, no, I don't want her. And he finally convinced her. And so we went, I didn't know there was a dance going on, a contest either. And so we got down, we walked to the beach, to the pier by the beach. I can remember that, and I was 13, and we went to the dance, and they announced they were having a jitterbug contest, and my cousin knew this, but he never told me, because I would never have gone on the dance floor. And he said, come on, Elaine. He always called me sis. And he says, come on, sis, come on. And so I did, and we won.
That's awesome.
I'm Diana Murray. I'm Irene's daughter.
I'm John Bergeron, Irene's nephew.
I'm Roberta Jones Malazzi. She's my Aunt Irene.
Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
How was the school named Loranger?
How was it named?
Yeah.
Well, my brother Charlie was a teacher here. He was also an athlete, and he was in everything that went on, football, baseball, basketball. He was into everything, and captain of teams and so forth. Very, very athletic. And because he had been on the school board, he was a teacher here, taught math, and so I don't know who picked it or who made the decision, but they named the school after him. My brother Charlie, the school was named for him. And my brother Robert, who is on the West Coast now. And I had 2 sisters, and they're both deceased.
What year did you graduate high school?
1942. A little while ago.
Yeah. Did you have any favorite teachers?
Any favorite
Teachers
teachers?
that you remember?
Yes, I think I did. I had, I think she was in junior high. Electa Chapin
Yeah.
was one of my favorite teachers, yeah. She got me involved in all sorts of things. I think that's about it, yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite like childhood memory of being in OOB?
Oh, gosh, I hadn't even thought about that. That's a long time ago, you know. I think it was, I was active in everything that went on. Like, we had a drama club, and we put on plays, and I was in public speaking, and things of that nature were a lot of fun. We were all involved. you know.
Singing?
Yeah.
Singing.
Oh, and singing too. I was in the Glee Club, yeah.
As an adult.
Oh, I just love it here. That's right. Yeah. I was 5 years old when we moved to Maine from Massachusetts. And I just loved it here.
And you worked at the Pepperell? Didn't you work?
Oh, I worked at the Socolold Shops
Socolold.
in the office, yeah. And,
Tell them about going in for your
I
job,
did.
Mom. Tell them about going in for your job. You and your friend went in for your job? You both went into the job. You wanted to work on the floor?
yes, that's right. My friend Mary, she was a graduate from here too. We went to the office, the personnel office at the Socolold Shop, because we both wanted to work in the business part,
Yeah.
the
Office?
Textile?
no, in the foundry and, you know, that sort of thing.
What were
Right in the nitty-gritty of a big company. And I got in there, and the personnel manager, I had never met him, and of course he had my name there, and he said, "You're Arthur's daughter." Yeah. So they wouldn't put me in the foundry where I wanted to work. I had to go in the office. I had taken typing anyway in school, so I could manage that, but I was not happy.
What was Arthur Loranger to you?
Oh, he was the superintendent at the Socolold Shops, and he was my dad. And they found that out, so they wouldn't let me go in the foundry. But my girlfriend went. Mary, they took Mary into the foundry.
Mother, was it Second World War that you wanted to help with the war effort? Is
It
that
was
when
World
you
War
went?
II, yeah, 1942.
Did you live in OOB during World War II?
Pardon?
Did you live in OOB during World War II?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What was it like? Do you remember?
Well, I'll tell you, it was blackout. You couldn't have light on in a window. We had blackout curtains in all our windows, and I was in high school at the time, and my friends and we used to walk down to the beach, and we could see flashes way out. Couldn't tell what kind of vehicle it was out there in the water, but we could see the flashes, and it was war games that were going on out there. The Navy, and every so often there'd be a news item on the radio. No, we didn't have television yet. It was on the radio that there were foreign subs out in Saco Bay. And so we had to have all our windows on the beach side, on the ocean side of the houses. had to have blackout curtains on them. You couldn't have any light, and you couldn't take a flashlight with you if you went out because you couldn't have lights to attract the enemies. Yeah.
What is one of your favorite things to do here in OOB?
At OOB? Oh. The favorite things were in the summer when everything was open.
Yeah.
The pier and the White Way and the everything. And that was it, to walk down on the pier and see all the people from all over Canada, all over the United States, people from all over. It was a very popular resort. Still is.
Yes, it is.
How about working down at the casino, down at the pier? You
Oh, I
worked
did.
out-
Yes, there was a penny arcade down at the end of the pier, and then there was another little bit of pier, and then there was the big ballroom and everything out there. But I worked in the penny arcade when I was in high school, and I had a booth, and we changed the money, and we had all the machines, penny and nickel machines, all kinds of stuff out there, and I worked in the booth and made the change for people. They'd give me $1, I'd give them the nickels or the pennies, whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
For the machines. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good. I think everybody that went to high school back then, we all got jobs down at the pier in the summer, and we had wonderful times. And we had Kittyland, and that was all little automobiles, airplanes, and stuff that went around and around. And I worked in the booth there and sold the tickets. And on Sundays, I ran the rides, and that was so much fun. You buckled the little kids in so they didn't fall out, It was a lot of fun. Almost everybody that went to school here in high school, we all got jobs down at the pier in the summer. Yeah, it was great. We didn't have to go too far. You could walk to work.
What did the pier look like when you were growing up?
What did it look like?
Yeah.
Well, it was a lot. It went out a lot farther than it does now.
Yeah.
It was much longer. And there was a big area, and then there was the Penny Arcade, which was covered and had walls around, but you could still, places that you could look down at the water.
Yeah.
And
The railroad, Mom?
Hmm?
Didn't there used to be a railroad that went out to the end of the pier?
oh, that was way before my time.
I remember seeing.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it, but it was the railroad that went out there was long before I was even living in Old Orchard. Yeah,
Did you dance on the pier? Did you dance on the pier?
I danced on the pier. I worked in the Penny Arcade, which was a covered area, and then there was another little area, maybe 20 feet or 30 feet, that before you got to the end of the pier where the big dance hall was, and they had very famous, all the band leaders, the big bands, all came to the pier back then when I was in high school. We trying to think of some of the names.
Jimmy Dorsey.
Hmm?
Jimmy Dorsey.
Oh, the Dorseys, yeah, Jimmy.
And who was the one who used
Tommy.
Tommy Dorsey.
Tommy Dorsey.
Well, some of, those musicians, a lot of them were, they had to have their little booze during intermission. And I was in the front booth, and they would bring their little bottle and put it down. There was a platform where I kept my feet. They'd leave their booze there, and they'd come and get it during intermission and go out and have their little nip, and then they'd put it back there. They pick it up at the end of the evening and take it home with them. And I was too young. I couldn't touch it, you know. I was only in high school.
Were there any big landmarks that you like saw that people might not know about like today?
Well, the old Orchard House was there, right on Saco Avenue, and it was a great big hotel. I remember it was gray, and there was out of their back porch that went down toward the beach area, toward the ocean area. There was a big walkway. It was elevated because it went from the hotel, which was high, and it went back down to get down to First Street and the railroad station, and it was yeah, I forgot.
Wow. Yeah, when-
Yeah, it went, did it go to the beach, Mom?
No,
The
it didn't go.
boardwalk?
Only went as far as the railroad station, and then people got off the walkway. There were railings because it was real high, and then it went down till it got to the railroad station, and they had to walk across Grand Avenue. Yeah, West Grand Avenue. Yeah, to get to the beach. Yeah.
What was your favorite place to hang out?
What was
Your favorite place to hang out?
Campground.
campgrounds? Yeah. Thanks, John.
I heard that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we used to hang out in there, and wasn't wasn't proper, but in high school we used to sneak cigarettes, and we'd smoke in the campground.
And where did you hide your cigarettes? Where did you hide?
Oh, we hid them. Well, there was a bandstand in the campground, and it was had a roof on it, and there were all kinds of benches that people sat in to listen to the concerts. But there were ledges, and we put our cigarettes up in the ledges and, during after school, or maybe we never got down there during recess because it was too far. We used to sneak them. I guess a lot of high school kids did that, and I think they probably still do.
Are there any stories about the history of OOB that you want to share?
I can't
bear.
think.
The bear that escaped from the Cascades.
Well, that was just me, you know. I was walking home. I had a friend who lived over on Evergreen Avenue, and it was like 9 o'clock. I had to be in by 9. I was in high school, but I was walking up Atlantic Avenue, and there was a fence, and just a wrought iron fence. It wasn't too high, and there was a nice yard inside. They had grass and flowers and things, flower beds. And when I left my friend Jean's house and came up Atlantic Avenue, it was almost across the street from where we lived on Saco Avenue, and there I walked along the sidewalk, and I looked over. The fence was only about this high. There was a bear in there, and it was kind of bent over, and it turned around, and it looked at me, and I ran. I could have beat any race in the nation. I went so fast up on in the house, slammed the door. My father was sitting there listening to the radio or something. We didn't have television back then, but he was listening to the radio, and what's the matter? A bear. Oh, Irene, that's silly. No, but anyway, it had been in a cage up at the what they
The
call it?
Cascade.
The Cascades. There was a park, and they had a bear in a cage, and he'd gotten out and came down, told us, he was raiding the garbage cans. That's what he was doing, looking for food.
Wow.
And scared the daylights out of me. But
Wow.
anyway, they got him the next day, and they tranquilized him and took him away.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, I can't think of anything offhand. I think we've covered a lot.
I think you did too.
Talk to the mayor.
the bear story was good.
Well, you know,
You
it was
did a lot.
in the spring and fall, there weren't that many people around.
Right.
Summer was loaded, you know, a lot of people. In spring and fall, it was just back to us natives. I think that's about it.
Okay. What year did you move to, or were you born in OB?
I moved here when I was in the second grade, so I was about 6 years old
Okay.
when we moved here from Biddeford.
This one.
Do you have any siblings? If so, do they live in town?
I have two siblings. I have a brother and a sister. And my sister lives in Westbrook. And my brother lives in Old Orchard. And he's the chief of police here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
I think
He was here yesterday.
for interviewing.
Hmm?
For interviewing. He was here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your childhood like in OOB?
It was great. I've always said, I don't know of another place I would have rather have grown up than here in Old Orchard. Back in the, well, it would have been the 60s and early 70s. It was just a really good place to grow up, a lot of fun. We had a lot of friends, and we all hung out together and went downtown and went to the beach and just had a really good time growing up.
Did you go to was Palace Playland still around then?
Palace Playland was here, but it wasn't the same building that it's in now.
Cause didn't
It was a totally different building.
Cause didn't it have like a fire or something?
It did. Yep, had a fire. Actually, I had a couple of fires there.
Did you go through the OOB school system?
I did. Yep, I was right here, and like I said, I think I was second or third grade, and then I graduated in 1972 from Old Orchard High School.
Did you have any of the same teachers that are here? Well, yeah. Like,
No, I think they've all pretty much either retired or moved on. Yeah, that was quite a while ago.
first job in OB.
My first job in Old Orchard Beach was I worked for the Palace Playland, but I worked in the parking lot. There used to be a big parking lot where the roller coaster is. That was a parking lot back when I was in school, and I worked in there. And then as time went on, I moved over to run the rides and worked in the arcade.
And what was your pay like?
Oh, it was, I can't remember exactly, but it was like $1.25 an hour or something like that. Wasn't a whole lot.
It wasn't money. Was money a bit different back then?
Well, just that, you didn't get the hourly rate that you get in today. We made, I think it was like $1.10 or $1.20 an hour, and we'd work all week and get $45, and
So-
felt like we were rich.
Yeah. First job in OB.
My first job in Old Orchard Beach was I worked for the Palace Playland, but I worked in the parking lot. There used to be a big parking lot where the roller coaster is. That was a parking lot back when I was in school, and I worked in there. And then as time went on, I moved over to run the rides and worked in the arcade.
And what was your pay like?
Oh, it was, I can't remember exactly, but it was like $1.25 an hour or something like that. Wasn't a whole lot.
It wasn't money. Was money a bit different back then?
Well, just that, you didn't get the hourly rate that you get in today. We made, I think it was like $1.10 or $1.20 an hour, and we'd work all week and get $45, and
So-
felt like we were rich.
Yeah.
What other jobs did you have in town?
In town, well, when I was, after I graduated from high school, I joined the fire department. And I worked as a firefighter in town for quite a few years. It was, and on call, it was meant that I only went when there was a fire. So yeah, I was on the fire department, I was also on the police department in town. And I also worked for Public Works. We cleaned the beaches when we were in high school. We worked, and they'd take us down the beach and clean the beach from like 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. every day.
So
So
3
we-
hours span of just cleaning this.
just
particular
cleaning
track?
one section of the beach. We each had a section, and that's what we did. We'd go to the beach at 5 a.m. and from 5 to 8 we clean our area.
Stories about the history of OOB that you experienced that you would like to share with us?
Oh, there's a ton of stories about the history of Old Ocean. One of the biggest days that I remember is I was working at the Palace Playland, and on the other side of the street there was a merry-go-round and Noah's Ark, which was a replica of the old Noah's Ark. The coal train, which was mules that take you underground and ride through that all burned one night when we were working, and that was a massive fire.
Was that like, because hasn't there been like 3 fires?
Yeah, that was the one that leveled that whole side of the street. That was back in, I think it was like 1968 or 9 or 70, somewhere right in there. So that was one memory and one historical event that I was at.
What are some things in OOB that drastically changed throughout your time living here, and how have you been affected by it in any way?
I think one of the things that's changed in Old Orchard is the amount of residents that are here. The people that have moved here from different parts of the country, as opposed to the people that were born and brought up here. And it's affected us in a good way. I mean, we've got a lot of different people in town, but it's not the same old people and the families that were here back when I was a kid. It's all totally different bunch of people now. I used to be able to say I think I knew everybody in town. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Because they always change. Okay, how did it make you feel, like how you affected?
How was I affected? Well, I was not in a negative way, in a good way. I mean, I met a lot of nice new people coming into town, made some friends. So, yeah, it affected me in a good way.
What made you want to stay in OOB as an adult, and do you still feel that way?
What made me want to stay is this is where I grew up. This is where I'm from. I'm an OOB boy. I love the beach. We used to go down and we used to surf almost every day. And it made me want to stay here. Living here made me want to stay here. So I had no inclination to move at all. I really liked being.
One of your favorite things to do in OOB? Because you already said.
Oh, excuse me. What was that now?
You already what was one of your favorite things to do in OOB? And you already said surfing, right?
Surfing was one.
Yeah.
Playing basketball was another one. We played a lot of basketball.
Do you have a favorite thing to do in OOB now?
Well, my wife and I like to walk downtown in the summer. We always take walks at night. We'll walk down Main Street, and we still go to the beach.
And don't you also you do some refereeing for sports here?
I do. Yeah, I'm a basketball official, but that's just not in Old Orchard. That's everywhere. But I always like coming here.
What was your favorite place to hang out and why? And is it still here?
As a kid,
Yeah.
favorite place, basketball court.
Yeah.
On Atlantic Avenue. We were there probably 6 days out of 7. There was a bunch of guys that we all played basketball. We all liked going there. And even when we weren't playing, that's where we would meet and hang out, right on the basketball court. Somebody always brought a ball.
Is it
We
still
always got
here?
a game.
Is that court still here?
It is. It's on Atlantic Avenue and Central Park Avenue. And in fact, that court's gonna get a big rehab. We're gonna do it all over, and it's gonna be a good place for guys to go and girls to go play basketball.
Were there any big landmarks that people may not know about today that are still here, or not still here?
Well, I think one of the biggest landmarks we had here was the pier. With the pier, as it is now, is completely different from what it was back when I was in school. It was a lot longer. There was a huge building at the end. There was an aquarium there. It was a destination that people like to go to. And that was one of the biggest landmarks. Old Orchard was always noted for its pier. Everybody come to Old Orchard to see the pier. So, yeah.
What did the pier look like when you were growing up?
Well, it's like I just said, it was a lot longer than it is today. There wasn't as many little shops on the pier. There was a lot of open space where you could stand and look at the water and the ocean and look out to sea. It was, as I said, it was longer, and there was a big building on the end which at one point had an aquarium that people like to go to. It was a real destination when you came to Old Orchard.
Do you ever miss being a kid?
Absolutely, every day. And again, there's actually no place I would rather have grown up than right here. And being a kid in Old Orchard, I think it's something special because of what we offer. We have the beach down there, we have the downtown, and it's just a great place to grow up. And I think a lot of people my age would say the same thing.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about, just
About
like
growing up
Yeah.
and being a kid here. Oh, there's a ton of things that I really enjoyed about being a kid here. We had a great Little League program in this summer when I was a kid, and of course growing up, going through the school system here. I've always said this school system is as good as any. I'll match it with anybody because I think you get a great education here. The teachers are very dedicated. It's just a really good school system, and just the town itself, just being here. It's a little small town, but it's a great place to grow up.
Did you ever go to any of the concerts at the ballpark or pier?
Oh, absolutely, I did. Yeah, I saw Rod Stewart was there. I saw the Beach Boys, Grateful Dead. I also went to watch, but when I was on the police force here, I also went there to work for some of the concerts. So it was two different things. I got to be a concert goer in one, and then I also had to work it in another. So yeah, I saw a lot of concerts. Yeah. It was great. Great place to see a show.
Were you here when the famous big bands played? If so, which band is your favorite?
Well, actually I wasn't. I'm a little young to be here for that, but I've heard that they were very popular. A lot of the big, well-known bands came here and played on the pier, which I think is fantastic. I mean, back then in that era, if you were here, that was great to see those guys, and especially in a little town in Maine, Old Orchard Beach. So it was really good. But unfortunately, I wasn't old enough.
Have you seen the Dummy Railroad, and did you ever ride on it?
Have I seen the what railroad?
The Dummy Railroad?
Oh, no, that was before me. Yeah,
Were you on the beach when any of the planes landed?
I was. Not back in the Lindbergh days, but back when they did a fly-in of the Lindbergh flight. Back, gosh, probably 30 or 40 years ago. And I was on the police force then. I was working, and I was down on the beach when they all landed.
Maybe we just do like 3 more questions.
Yep.
So, how do you spend your birthdays in OOB?
How do I spend my birthday?
Or how did you?
How did I? Oh, okay. Usually my parents had a little party when I was a kid. We all had birthday parties.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I went downtown and hung out down there playing pinball or doing something fun. My birthday's in August, so right in the middle of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So Old Orchard was in full swing at the time.
Did you ever go to the dances in the ballroom?
I did. Yep. I've been to was there several times down for when the ballroom was still existing. Yeah, saw some good bands there. Yep.
What were the restaurants like downtown?
What were they like?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were typical restaurants. Yeah. Good food mostly places. There was a lot of more family type dining than there is now. Places where whole families went, and there was more. I think there were more restaurants than there is today, because back when I was growing up, the town would in the summer it was not uncommon to have 100,000 people in town, and that's a lot of people going from 9,000 a year round to 100,000 in the summer. So that's they needed restaurants. So there were a lot. There was good food.
Do you think like OOB, like the people, like coming are like the amount of people that come each summer or just year round? Is it like growing or is it declining?
I think during the summer days there's about the same amount of people in town, but at night, see, it's different because a lot of the people that come in the day come down and go to the beach and then go home. At night, it's the vacationers that are here filling up the motels and hotels and campgrounds. So there's a different number from day to night. And the night, it's pretty close to the same. We've been a great vacation destination for years and years and years, and people like coming to Old Orchard because of the 7 miles of sandy beach we have. So,
Do you think like OOB was more popular back then or is it more popular now?
I think probably about the same. I think the people that come, a lot of people that vacation here now, adults, they'll always say, "Gee, I came here every summer as a kid." So they just keep going, going, and going, and they come back year after year, and then they bring their families back. So it starts a whole new generation over it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anything else you'd like to share about, just
About
like
growing up
Yeah.
and being a kid here. Oh, there's a ton of things that I really enjoyed about being a kid here. We had a great little league program in this summer when I was a kid, and of course growing up, going through the school system here, I've always said this school system is as good as any. I'll match it with anybody because I think you get a great education here. The teachers are very dedicated. It's just a really good school system, and just the town itself, just being here. It's a little small town, but it's a great place to grow up.
What year did you move or were you born in Old Orchard?
I moved to Old Orchard in 1944. I was raised by my grandparents, and they had a hotel on the beachfront off of East Grand Avenue. So I'm still here.
Do you have any siblings? Do you have any
Yes,
siblings?
I have 2 sisters. One lives in Massachusetts. Her name's Karen. And I have a sister that lives in West Bath. Her name is Violet. And I have a brother, John, that's passed. being raised by my grandparents. My grandfather used to have a big snow shovel, and he would make me a hill from the driveway going down to the beach on the sand, and I could slide right from the driveway onto the sand on the beach, so it was great. And during the summertime, as being a hotel, we had mostly Canadian guests at the hotel, and we had cottages as well. So during the summer, it was busy with all kinds of people, met a diverse amount, different types of people, which was great. And during the winter, it was back to our quiet little town, which I liked.
Did you go through the old Orchard Beach school system?
Yes, I started here in kindergarten, and one of the funny things was my grandparents were French, and I only knew French. So when I started kindergarten with Mrs. Taylor, my grandmother bought the book that she would be teaching from, and the night before, she knew what lessons Mrs. Taylor was going to do, so she would read it to me in English and translate it in French, so I'd know what she was saying, and that's how I learned the English language. So I still have one of my report cards from kindergarten, and at the beginning it said Jean was shy, and at the Christmas time reporting it said Jean won't stop talking. So I guess it came kind of easy. I went from kindergarten to my junior year of high school in Old Orchard. My junior year I switched to St. Andrews, a parochial school in Biddeford, and I graduated from there.
Teachers that were in the school?
Yes, I remember quite a few of them. Mrs. Taylor, of course, in kindergarten. And then we had Miss Margoni in the 4th grade, I remember her. And we had 2 Mrs. Smiths, different people in the 5th and 6th grade. I remember Mrs. Catherine O'Neill was the 8th grade teacher. And then we had a variety of high school teachers. When I was in high school, it was Mr. Jerome LaPelletier that was the teacher here. Pelletier that was the teacher here, the principal.
Yeah. Do you remember any, like, did you have like allied arts back then, like library, gym?
Yes, we took gym. I enjoyed, I was on the field hockey team, and I enjoyed badminton during the gym classes. I joined the band, so we had Mr. Ernest Brousseau teaching the band how to march. Mr. Himalayan was there at the time as a music teacher.
Are there any stories about like the history of Old Orchard Beach that you'd like to share with us?
Old Orchard is rich in people that came from all over the country to the pier to play at the end of the pier, which is no longer there today. So we had many big bands. All the big bands came here, the Glenn Millers, the Dorsey Brothers. The one that came the most often was Duke Ellington. He came 19 times to Old Orchard. They had 2 ballrooms at the time. One was at the end of the pier, and the other one was in the Palace Playland area that had a big building there. So the bands played at both of those things. And then that closed in the 1960s. And then in the 1980s, the bands came to the ballpark, and we had several big names there. We went to see Hugh Louie and the News there, so there was quite a few big bands playing there. So it was a fun place to be, you know, with all the activities going on here.
Were there any like big landmarks that people might not know about like today?
The pier would be one of them that was taken down by the storms. Most of the other places are still here. A lot of the homes on Portland Avenue are on the historical criteria.
What was your favorite place to hang out, like as a kid, as a teenager now? And is it still here?
Being raised by my grandparents, I had a very secluded life, and being on East Grand Avenue side, it wasn't very well populated during the winter because most of them were your summer rentals that were there. So there were 2 or 3 other families with children my age there, and so we didn't hang out that much, no. It was school activities that we did. Our band practices for marching band were during the early evening or late afternoon, so that took care of daylight hours.
Or were you there when the pier burned down?
Yes, I was. My husband was a fireman, so when the alarm came in, we were at the hotel helping my grandfather with the guests, because we had bought our own home on Seaview Avenue. And so we were there to see the whole act burn, which was quite devastating. They did, just before going up on the pier, they had a donkey ride there, the coal mine, and passers-by and the people who were running it, the employees, helped take the donkeys out. It was a coal mine that it was a hole in the ground that you could go down into, and they rescued all of the animals so that they wouldn't be hurt. Noah's Ark went down, the famous carousel, which was our biggest loss, because the carousel was made by Damsel, and at the time there was only 3 carousels made by that famous Damsel in the world, and when we lost it, it was irreplaceable to the same quality. We currently do have another carousel, but it's not to the same value that the one that burnt was, so that was a big loss as far as something that was really unique and not there anymore.
In Old Orchard, like when you were a teenager, maybe?
I helped at the church quite a bit at St. Margaret's. For a few years, I took care of the teachers that taught in the grade schools there. And then I worked on the pier in the 90s. I ran 7 shops. I was on the first one up on the pier, which is now Hooligans. It was a large gift shop there, and worked there and managed the others that were up on the hill for the owner of the store. I was not the owner. And now I'm currently the curator for the Old Orchard Beach Historical Society. So I work there during the summer. We're open 5 days a week, so I'm there from 10 to 2. And during the winter, we only meet on Tuesdays. And I'm fortunate to have 10 Old Orchard Beach volunteers that help run the museum. So it's a fun place to be, and you learned a lot about Old Orchard.
Graduate from high school.
I graduated from high school in 1957.
Cool.
I like to walk the beach, and I like it when we have our voting in the school, because you get to see people that you don't normally get to see, old acquaintances. I think the library is a great place also where we can meet people that we don't daily associate with and see, so it's a fun thing to do.
Did you, when you go for walks on the beach, do you have any dogs or cats?
I have 2 dogs at home. My Sheltie is 13 years old, her name is Sophie, and I have an 8-year-old pit bull mix, and his name is Rex.
Do you take them on the walk?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like it, but I don't let them loose. My Sheltie would follow me. She doesn't need a leash. She's right by my side all the time. But my younger one would just run right off, and I don't trust him off the leash.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's a small community. When I was connected with the school, when my children, I have 4 daughters, and they all went to school here in Old Orchard, and they joined the band, and they were in the color guard.
Oh, me too.
So we started a color guard, a winter guard, because with the marching band, they were active only in the fall. So we initiated the winter guard so that it would keep them involved and still part of the band. And we traveled every weekend to Massachusetts for competitions. And then we went to semifinals in Tennessee, and we came out national as second in our class. We were Class B at the time, and the classes went by the number of school, how big your school was.
What was the name of your winter guard?
We called it the main attraction,
Oh my gosh,
and it's still main attraction today.
I'm the main attraction.
Yes, so.
We just started practices,
Yes.
and it's so fun.
Yeah. In fact, Margaret, that's your
She's still doing
teacher now, was in the winter guard when we started it, and her mother helped me. Gloria Sanborn helped me, so it was
She still comes.
Gloria and I and 3 or 4 other parents had joined in, and it was a fun time. You'll have to talk to Margaret about it, because we have some great memories of
Yeah.
and when we went to Massachusetts, we'd sleep on the gym floor, and it was a great time. And we enjoyed that very much.
What were some things in the OOB that like drastically changed from like, let's say, from your childhood now?
It's gotten a lot bigger. One thing that I've noticed, not being involved with the school any longer, when we go to the grocery store, we don't know everybody anymore, like we used to when we were involved. Being involved with the school, you get to meet and know more people in the community. I think that's one of the changes for me. Not that it's a change in Old Orchard, but it's just you have to keep involved with local items, local functions, to get to know more of the people. When I was involved with the school and the color guard, no matter if I went to Zaharis's for a night for the grocery store, or Radley's at the time, it's now Landry's, you just knew everybody that was in there. So that's a little change for me. I think Old Orchard is a wonderful community because it's small. People are always concerned about one another, they care for one another. You go to the town hall and they all know you, they're friendly. And I think if I was living in a bigger city, I wouldn't have the closeness to the people in the community that you have here. And I think the fire service and the police department have a close relationship with most of the people. So it's a friendly community as far as we know, and I think it's a great place to be. You don't get lost in the crowd in Old Orchard. You're special.
OOB.
You're the one that.
Okay, I was born in 1933, okay? It's a long time ago. In my childhood, growing up, I was born on Walnut Street, okay? And my childhood was excellent. I walked down the street to the beach, okay? Or I could ride my bike up to Milliken Mills Pond, where we either went swimming or fishing, okay?
I love fishing.
That's another story, right? And in back of me, the place I was born, was the grandstand from the Old Orchard Beach kite track. Now, I'm not sure if you ever knew about that or not.
Yes, it's a horse racing track that's shaped like a kite. I think they tore it down. I don't remember how long ago, but I know they tore it down.
Yeah, around 1950, 51 or something. Anyway, but that grandstand was more than just a grandstand for the people watching the horse races. Because off-season, we would get down there and we would play tag inside the building and stuff, okay? We would also, in the winter, put a basket up, and then they had an area that was outside. So we'd put a basket up and we'd push the snow off, okay, and play basketball down there. And the young people in Old Orchard, used to go down to the grandstand, take off their shoes, put on their ice skates, walk across the track, and there was an area of the marsh they always called Little River, and you could almost skate down to Pine Point by following different paths down through there. So basically, it was a great place to grow up.
Yeah, it would. Do you have any siblings, or were you an only child?
I had a sister, but she was 9 years older.
Wow.
And like both siblings, I didn't like my sister.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them what you did when you were working at the elementary school? Kind of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's okay. When I was young, I probably started around maybe 10 years old or something like that. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But we had an apartment upstairs, and a man lived there with his father, and he was the janitor of the schools. Now, this was on School Street, and there used to be 2 buildings there, okay? So I would sweep those buildings. He would drop me off when I was just a kid, and I would sweep both buildings, okay?
Yeah.
And then in the winter time, when I got a license, and back in those days, you could get a driver's license when you were 14.
Lucky.
Sort of. It was pretty rural around here, okay? So we used to go down, and he'd go to the old fire barn, which was part of the town hall, all right? And they'd play cards until 9 o'clock in there, all right? So I used to take the old 1929 Model 8 Ford of Charlie's, okay? And I would go down to the schools on School Street, and I would take the flag down, fold it all up, put it in the kindergarten room, all right? And then if it was wintertime, I would also stoke the coal furnaces and pull out the clinkers. That's kind of metal that's in there and it welds together. So you pull those out, you'd shake the grate, and then I'd add more coal if I had to.
Yeah.
So that was something additional.
You were 14 then?
When I would drive the car down, yeah, that's when I got my license. So
Yeah,
14, 15, yeah.
I can't imagine us ever driving at 14.
Well, he also drove before he was 14.
I can, so help me.
Were there any big landmarks that people may not know about today that you may like to share? Like the donkey mines? Anything hidden like that?
What the old orchard house? Where Rite Aid is? The story you used to tell me on that?
Yeah, there was the old orchard house. Was well, you know where Rite Aid is?
Yeah.
And on top of that hill right there was a huge 400 and some odd people or something like that. It would take, and that was there for a lot of years. And they used to have a little stepping, not a walk, but a lifted area so they could walk down, right down to the corner of like the parking lot on the bottom of Staple Street. And that was there for, many years. It was a big thing. And it's funny because I can remember when I was in either kindergarten or first grade, which was on School Street, okay? And they were tearing it down. And the things that are weird, the guy was on top of this big building. I don't know how many stories they had, 3 or 4 stories or something like that. And it was a huge building. And he had a sledgehammer. And this is what's strange. He would hit, and it would be like a second after that you'd hear the sound. And I was so fascinated with that. And I kept watching that guy. And I can remember saying to whoever was with me, look, listen, watch. He hits it, and it would be like, bang. But, it was like that delay, Weird. Isn't that something weird to remember forever?
Probably an air pock in the sledgehammer. I mean, or something. Or it could be a phenomenon. Or is.
Well, I mean, obviously, you're looking at the thing of impact.
Then
the sound arrives fractionally later, right?
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's a. Well, actually, it's not in Saco. I was thinking of the falls, the waterfalls on the Cascade Road. Yeah.
Oh, Cascade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another little story, quickly. I have no clue if it's true or not, okay? But when I was,
How much time do you have left?
None.
You had a story?
okay, I can tell you this, like I say, I don't know if it's true or not, it's only what an elderly man told me. So when I was burning the bank down there, a man in his, I'm guessing in his 80s, told me that they were digging for a water pipe. And if you go down the town hall, and there's the town hall, then right there's a parking lot, and then across the little street there's a parking lot, okay? And this gentleman told me that when he was a kid, which could have been 1890 or 1900 or something, he said they were digging this water trench and they found the graves of 2 Indians. And he said they just, saw this but covered it up and continued in the water pipe. So maybe they're still there and maybe they're not, but I thought that was, I never forgot that. And every once in a while I mention it to somebody, but I'd hate to be wrong. I mean, I just, what the man told me, and he was an older man, probably like me, and so it was kind of neat. So anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, is there anything else you would like to share? This is like the wrap-up question.
Actually, what I recommended to Pat Brown one time was, you get a few older people together, okay? And they have memories, you have memories, and lots of times you telling your story reminds them of something that happened then. There's nothing like a group discussion. Remember this? Oh, I'd forgotten about that, yes. And, if you witnessed a group, 6 or 8, 10 people, and if you let them go and recorded the topics they discuss.
I'm going to stop on our way out and see Pat, and I'm going to have you tell her that. Because we're going to walk by the room she's in right now. We're going to tell her.
You think that's a good idea?
That's an awesome idea. You already recommended that to her. I know.
Well, I did in a way, but I'll recommend it again.
Let's do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I agree.
There's so many great memories here.
So awesome.
And these 2 guys have
Like, best, top, mountaintop best.
That's a tough question. It's, it was a different world back then, and you could do whatever you wanted to do, basically. I mean, people didn't say, you didn't see no trespassing signs on the woods, and there were a lot of woods in Old Orchard at that time, okay? So, I mean, we'd go out in the woods, anywhere, we'd build a little tree house or something, and an interesting thing is, back in those days, we never bought a Christmas tree. We simply went out in the woods, not ours, but someone else's, and cut the tree down. And no one cared. The people that owned the property never cared, and that went on for a long time. But trying to find a peak thing I did as a kid, I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure. I can't really. He just had a good childhood. It was a nice place to grow up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And slices of pizza only cost, a slice of pizza only cost 25 cents in those days, too.
Yeah, not $4. Did you go through the OOB system? OOB?
Yeah.
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 Like, my grandfather, never mind. But do you have any favorite teachers or anything? Like this is not on the paper, but my grandfather said that some people burnt down the middle school.
The federal school.
Yeah,
they called it.
Because nothing's on that wasn't on the history. I just found that out, and I'm wondering, like, is that how this school was kind of combined, or like?
The Jameson School, right? Okay, it was in that location, the federal school, and just to give you a couple of facts. It was during the Second World War, right? And lots of people moved into Old Orchard because they had the shipyards in Portland and they had the Navy Yard down in Kittery, all right? So lots of people came here. The trailer parks basically started then, and I just found this a little while ago. In 1941, there were 660 students in the whole school system.
Holy crap.
2 years later, in 1943, there were 1,357 students. They was jam-packed. Excuse me, the people that came in here lived in cottages and tried to winterize them in crazy ways. They stuck rolled up newspaper in the walls and stuff. And so that had a tremendous impact on Old Orchard. And that's when the trailer parks really took off.
Yeah, I actually live out Wild Acres. There's apartments there and it's huge. I mean, there's like hundreds and hundreds of trailers there. You'd be surprised. Yeah, like, did you know any of the kids who burnt it down? Like, personally? Or?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for telling me. Yeah, I'm a talker. I like to talk a lot. So
You and I should never meet on the street.
Yeah.
It would never end.
Yeah,
You
when
gonna
I
ask me
took a
something?
test, it actually said
well,
that.
we're supposed to do like clips of like questions, and then I don't know what the questions are exactly, so he's just like saying questions. Like we're supposed to like stop and take clips because Miss Brown is gonna like take clips and put them into like.
Okay, do whatever you need to do.
I was just asking him to tell me when.
Brady, those were add-on clips.
Huh?
Question add-ons.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And they're like, because one of our questions was, did you live in did you live in Ubal, War?
Two.
Yes.
Here comes another long special.
See, like, 'cause
Yes.
that's why I was trying to keep that on, because I didn't even ask about that, and that's really
So
cool.
do you need the clip to do that one?
Yeah. Let's. Yeah.
You're on
Okay.
World War II now?
Yeah. Okay. Did you live in OOB during World War II?
Yes.
What was it like?
Okay. It was a complete change of pace. Remember I told you all of the people moved down because of the shipyards. And these were military, all right? The shipyard was building military ships. Kittery, they were building submarines, right? So all of these people moved from way upstate. A lot of people from upstate came down, and New Hampshire moved in. And oh God, I just lost my train of thought there. But anyway, in Old Orchard, the town, at night, there were tons of people that came here. Many sailors that came, both from Navy, from the Navy Yard, because they were part of the Navy down there, and from Portland, where there were a lot of ships coming in. It was, everything was, well, I'm jumping around mentally here. On Walnut Street, where I was just a kid, the Army used to come down, and on one side of the street, right beside our property, they dug a place and put bags there, and then they had a cannon. They put a cannon there. Now this was practice, okay? And then on the other side of the street, there was like a foxhole where a guy could shoot rifles at him. So they used to come down every 2 or 3 weeks to practice. And of course, as kids, we get all excited about that. And as soon as they left, we jumped in and pretended we had all this information.
Did they leave the cannon there?
No, they never left the cannon there.
Because I can just imagine.
Now, there's another fact that along the coast and in the North Atlantic, there were German submarines. They were all over the place. As a matter of fact, I just read that in the North Atlantic, there were 171 ships sunk by the Germans. These were American ships trying to go to Europe, to England, and to supply our troops and the people over there. Now, I say they had submarines off the coast. When I was young, you could see there was military, well, there was a Coast Guard was doing quite a job on the coast. And Then you'd see military airplanes that would go along, and then you'd see, every once in a while, a dirigible, okay? Now, the big helium-filled things that float through the air.
Like the hood blimp, you mean?
Pardon?
Like the hood blimp?
Yeah, like a blimp. Well, they used to, that's a blimp, call it if you want to. And they were powered, okay? And they used to go along the coast. Well, one time it flew over the pier, and you could look right up and see the bombs in the bomb rack. All right?
That must have been a little scary.
That was nice. Now, I spent 3 years in Germany in the military, okay? I was in the Air Force. And while I was there was another man from Old Orchard. I can't remember his name any longer. But he was telling me he met this man in a bar, I think. And he said the man spoke perfect English, and he said, I thought he was American. But actually, he was German, but he had gone to college in America. And then he went back to Germany, I guess probably before the war started, and he became part of the military. Okay? Now, he said, he told this friend that he said he was telling him that he had been a German spy. Well, the friend told him that he came from Maine. And he said, well, I was a German spy and in Maine. And he said, along with another man who had also been educated in this country and went back to Germany. And he said, our job was to go up and down the coast and list all of the fortifications. In other words, if the Germans attacked this country, they would have attacked here too, which was the reason for the cannons and stuff on Walnut Street. So, and the guy was telling him about, you know, how they did and what they did. And then he said, where in Old Orchard did you live? He said, I thought, maybe this guy isn't really telling the truth. You know, he didn't know. And he said, the guy asked him, the German, where did you live? And he said, Old Orchard Beach. And he said, oh, he said, we were there. He says, we went out on the pier. And he said, then he knew the guy was speaking the truth, you know. And so it had quite an effect on all of our lives, right?
Like, I never knew that, like, Maine doesn't seem like a state that would have a military, like a big, like, I can't imagine, like, Maine being fortified, like, every part of Maine, like, with cannons on the streets, stuff like that.
It really wasn't, okay? It's, one thing you can even look up on the internet is prisoners of war, POWs, in German POWs in Maine during World War II. And it'll tell you about there were 3 or 4 places where they used to keep the prisoners. And of course, from anything I've read, they were very happy. They weren't in the war any longer. They were getting fed, and they were safe. You know? So you could look that up.
Rugby player? Or, like, was a like...
Are you talking about somebody at that time period that was out on the pier playing?
Yeah, like, he was a famous musician. No, not Neil Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong?
Yeah, Louis Armstrong.
Yeah.
Did you ever see him play?
No. When there was, actually, when things were really booming, I was really young, you know. And we used to go out on the pier during the day, but I can remember once, though, going out there with Richard Smith. And there used to be, you'd go in the ballroom, and there was a balcony. You could go up above it. And we went up on the balcony, and they had one of these lights, you know, that when it turned slowly around, it hit all the little things on the walls, you know, the stars or whatever it may have been in there. But I never went out there dancing. As a matter of fact, they even used to have a theater out there. Well, they had the outside theater, but sometimes they used to even show movies inside in the ballroom area.
Like was it like a normal theater, or just like, was it unique?
What was a normal theater years ago is a whole different world today. Okay, we had no technology then. You know, as a matter of fact, I hate to go off, but we had no. I was thinking about growing up when we had ice boxes, not refrigerators. There was no refrigerators. You didn't have You didn't have a air conditioner in your car, right? I'm going to tell my one last story about the telephone operator, right? Okay. Right up next to the town hall, there's a gray building. It has downstairs, it has a tattoo parlor, I think, and a beautician. Well, years ago, the post office was down there, and the telephone exchange was upstairs. Well, this is when you had our phones were a box on the wall, and it had a speaker coming out of it, and then you picked up this thing to hear, and then you rang the operator. Now, the operator was upstairs in that building, okay? And she had these lines, and you'd say, our number at that time was 455, okay? So you'd say, I want to call 462. And, she would answer the phone, number, please, and you'd say 462, please. Okay, so she'd take this thing, and there were all of these, just like you have an electrical cord or something,
or
pushing
plug.
it in, right, a plug, and pushing it in, and then she would ring that person so they could answer the phone.
We actually have, you know the big watermill? Like, yeah, it's trying to think. They use a cell phone tower there, I'm pretty sure.
The water tower
Yes.
at Patrice?
Yeah, they have all the antennas up there.
Yeah, like, do you remember anything about the water tower?
Well, at one time it held water for the town of Old Orchard
Yeah.
Beach, okay?
Like, did it break, or because I know if something that size broke, it would be like flood.
Oh, it would be horrendous.
Yeah.
I can't really remember why it stopped. Probably because
us?
they had much more sophisticated pumps going on, so they could spread the water throughout Old Orchard without having to have it stored up there.
Yeah.
Or we stopped with the water company
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
And like, and I feel like they probably stopped it maybe because, like
The condition of the water tower, you mean?
yeah, like the condition and like in the winter maybe that took some toll on it. Maybe froze the water.
I don't think so, because there was so much water and it was constantly moving, okay? Water coming in and water going out to all of the community.
Yeah, because I go ice fishing. This current is not good for, like, moving water is not good for ice because it can still freeze, but it takes a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first job. I was just a little squirt.
How old were you? 14, 15?
No, 12 to 13 probably. It was, well, and the reason I had the job is because it was Richard Smith's parents, okay, and they owned it, and so we just lived close together and we were friends growing up, and so he got me the job out there.
Well,
and this is interesting too because, matter of fact, just happen to have this picture, and of the pier. The pier used to be bigger, I mean, out at the end, right?
Yeah.
And you can look at this, and I'll just point this out to you. Here. Now, the end of the pier, let me get here, okay, right down here, you could go out during the day, you used to be able to, and you could fish off the pier. And out on the end here, where you see it, was an outdoor movie theater, okay? And at night, obviously.
Yeah.
And I can always remember going there because you'd go there and you'd have a shirt on, a short sleeve, probably was summertime. But during the movie, the ocean breeze would kick up a bit and you'd start getting chilly. But it was quite a bit different anyway. And this is how the pier used to be, okay?
So,
many
like,
years ago, when they had the famous bands from everywhere used to come and play out there.
Yeah.
Okay?
And what town was the pier in?
Keep that if you want.
The Ellington Pier, what town was that in?
That's right. You could tell all these stories too. The pier at low tide, I think, after low tide, the pier was in Saco. Old Orchard separated from Saco in 1883. And the reason, here we go, the reason they separated from Saco is because Saco wouldn't put enough fire engines or pumps or something down here, and Old Orchard had terrible fires, a series of
Yeah.
terrible fires.
I heard about that.
Yep. So anyway, that's what happened.
Like the fire split up Saco and Loranger pretty much.
Yep.
Like, like the pier looks so much bigger than it was. Or
The new pier looks like
It
half
is much
the
bigger.
size.
like not even like.
They had
How did they remove the? Because I either feel like that. I heard some of the pier did burn down, but did this big dancing talkies casino dancing was? How did they Did that burn down or?
That was a storm that did most of the damage out there. The first pier they built, I believe, was all steel, and that just didn't make it at all.
I mean,
2 or
rust.
3 years.
Like rust and soul. I mean, that thing must have been.
Yeah.
In like nowadays, I don't think the pier goes out really far. I mean, there's I wish it did, but there's.
I can't remember the extent now. Can you remember how far it went out? It was a
Don't
long
remember, it was
distance.
very long.
And,
I heard 16.
and big boats were able to come to it.
Yeah.
So, but all that fell down. That was really early. Yeah.
I heard it was once 4 times as big. It was like, I don't know, 1,600 feet or 1,600 yards, either or. And I don't remember exactly, but I heard 1,600 feet. Would that be true or false?
I'm trying to think.
We had that train that went out there at one point.
A train?
Yeah. Well, it was a little one. It was on the pier.
That's kind of
And,
cool.
yeah. You could see pictures of that a lot of times online if you go back. Oh, you ever been to the historical?
Yeah, we just
Museum?
Yeah.
The museum?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
yeah,
went there.
And if you ask them about the pier and stuff, I'll bet behind the scenes they probably have a lot more pictures, and they would show you.
Yeah, we actually went there. That's why we had to study up for this project.
Yep.
So we went here. So we know what we're talking about, or at least we can. We might not know everything, but we can catch on to most of it.
Yep.
They even had old fires from the pier, ballrooms. What was the
Yeah, the
guy's
disco ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was cool.
Well, I would cut this, and I'm gonna ask another. Okay, I'll take this one. What year did you graduate from high school?
1951.
1950. Yeah, you were 18, I'm guessing? Yeah.
I was what?
How old were you?
Yeah.
When I graduated?
Yeah.
17.
So.
And then in July I became 18.
Wow, yeah. Was high school different back then?
Oh, a whole different world. It was, the courses were all basic. First off, you have to remember, like I mentioned before, there was no technology. You know, you simply...
No iPads, no...
No, you simply had the basics. You had math, you know, I mean, math, history, science, what they knew, and it's funny, you mentioned which teacher did you like the best. I had a Mr. Hanson, he was my science teacher. He was just a pretty cool guy. You know? But it was, here's something. Girls, back in those days, were only allowed to play half-court basketball. Girls could not play the whole court. It was the belief back in those days that women weren't physically strong enough to run the whole court. And of course now they were in football teams and wrestling and everything else, right? And run marathons. But yeah, half-court.
What school were you in? Were you in this, where we are right now?
This is, well, it's totally different here. I'm lost.
Right, but I
no,
mean,
it wasn't in this school. It was in the.
Jameson?
No, this is the middle school. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the basic part of it, they've added on, but yeah, this was a school.
Yeah,
It
we
was
added
laid
on.
out differently. It was, you came in through the door on the street. You came in, and then upstairs, going upstairs, and
Yeah.
Jim was hooked on, yeah.
Like, were you in anything? Because I know my great grandfather.
Yeah.
He graduated when he was, I think, 15 or 16. Like, were you in anything advanced, like school related, or I don't know,
AP classes, you mean? Like advanced prep classes?
Yes.
Did you take any special classes?
Like,
no, there were no special classes in not in that era.
Like, I'm wondering what you guys did back then for like math, science. It has to be a lot different than now.
Oh.
Did you guys teach algebra, stuff like that?
Well, yeah, like my senior year, I had algebra 2, geometry and physics, and I can't even remember what the other course was. But I mean, there was such a long period of time where there was no progress, or at least that the public was aware of, right? In science and things like that. Today,
Math stuff, yeah.
well, math has basically remained the same.
But evolved, like, in some sort.
Yeah.
You didn't have calculators.
No, we sure didn't have. I can remember when the first calculator came, and Hughes, remember Hughes, the millionaire, billionaire, or whatever he was, Howard Hughes,
Yep,
was
Howard
it?
Hughes, yep.
And now, it was his era, and they came out, and I know a guy that bought one, and it was a little tiny thing, and basically all it did was add, subtract, and multiply, and he paid
Divide?
$75 for it. $75 for this little thing that you find at Goodwill now. They just give them away. They don't even use them anymore, right?
We use calculators, but I mean, like, we know stuff like a lot earlier now.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I heard 8th graders are even taking algebra. Like, yeah, like, you said you were making 20 cents an hour at one time, and that would be, wow, that would be a while. I mean,
Well, the minimum wage today is $10, or did it go to 11? It's 11 now. The minimum wage today $11. Yeah.
yeah, like that. I feel like wouldn't $11 back then be a awesome job?
Awesome, I guess so.
Like is 20 cents per hour, like, compared to 11 is
Well, what's the percentage here? How much has it grown? Just think of that.
yeah.
How much is
Minimum wage 20 cents compared to 11. Yeah, it's but
Did you take cursive writing?
yeah, cursive, absolutely.
yeah.
I still do it once in a while, just so I won't forget.
It's sad, but I don't know cursive.
Yeah, I know. They don't even teach it anymore. You
Yeah,
know?
they stopped teaching it a few years ago. I mean, I'm an excellent reader, but it's like I can't tell when I'm reading cursive. I can make out words here and there, but like simple like is, as, S's are like, but yeah, they stopped teaching in 2nd grade, I think, and yeah.
I've learned how to read a little bit of cursive. I can't write it, but like I can understand like what some words are.
Yep.
Like some of the bigger, like because, like that's a kind of a long letter word, like
Yep.
a lot of letters. So, like I can like spell that out, and like I don't know, I just like I just know how to read a little bit of cursive.
I wish I could read it, but like writing, I feel like would be too like. I think it would be better if we learned it like at 1st grade maybe, but 6th grade it's like.
Yeah. Well, you're so accustomed to, you know,
Yeah,
printing
I mean,
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So far,
This is your radio. I'm just here along for the ride.
yeah. Okay. What are some things in OOB that drastically changed throughout your time living here? And have you been affected by it in any way? how did it make you feel?
What has drastically changed?
I mean, we were kind of talking about that in the last clip, but
Yeah.
Was there a bank here when you were a kid?
Actually, there was Saco and Benefit Savings was at the top of the street where it is. But before then, actually when I first opened, going way back, no, there weren't any banks, all right? And then Saco and Benefit opened. And then it was York National Bank, because back in those days, if you went to a savings bank, they didn't have checking accounts, okay?
was
And
it just
they only
cash?
gave home mortgages, personal loans, and the commercial banks, okay, which was York National when I moved down from Saco. They had a trailer here for 2 or 3 years right beside the town hall, and they did the commercial accounts and stuff, and then everything changed. But as far as the biggest impact,
Well, the fire station and the police station and the ballpark, wasn't that a big farm?
yes. Kim's dad was a fire chief here in Old Orchard too, at one time. And, but when things started to progress and Old Orchard started to grow, those things became more important. And they moved the fire station from the town hall up to where it is today, up near the schools. And, but to try to think of big impacts, you know,
Superintendent's office?
like?
They know where the superintendent's office is. Where did it used to be?
the superintendent's office used to be, well, actually, way back, it was Saco. We were controlled by,
Right.
we shared in, or however it
But
was.
when they moved the superintendent's office to where it is now, where did they move it from? Was it the Titcomb farm?
Yes, I think it was. I've forgotten all about that. Wow.
It was a farmhouse.
Yeah.
Yep.
I gotta interject something here before I forget it. When I was in the federal school, okay, Richardson's farm, which was down the road on the right, past the fire station, the police station, had cows. And they used to let the cows loose. And so the cows would be outside the federal school eating the grass. It was always, it was mowed and it was nice grass. So they'd come down there, and every time one of them made a noise or something, we'd all kind of chuckle, the cow outside. Well, when I was in the high school, okay, it was the seniors, a couple of senior boys, I think, and they brought one of the cows into the school, okay, and then it did its woo or whatever it does, right? And it echoed throughout the school, and everybody was in hysterics. Of course, all the teachers were trying to keep control, but
Like, what is that? What?
yeah.
And almost like it goes.
What made it? I'm trying to think of impacts. I can tell you one thing: when the golf course started, that was a huge impact on the orchard.
Isn't
Absolutely
it the
huge.
country club?
Benefit Saco Country Club on the Old Orchard Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been there a very long time in Saco.
So, like, did you ever go there? Or?
No. Wow.
Like, is
They
that
even used to have a wild animals up, where the golf course is, and on the other side, there's a tenting and trailer park across the street. Well, that's where OSHA had. He had wild animals. He had, I don't know, elephants and
elephants?
tigers. I don't know what he had up there. And I believe they buried an elephant up there somewhere that died. And at least that's what I heard. I don't.
Tell them about the donkeys on the ride downtown.
Oh yeah, we used to have the coal mine down before the pier. They used to call it the coal mine. And we also had Noah's Ark. And the donkey rides, they were all underground. Get in and they'd go down, and I still don't know how far they went. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, donkeys, and they used to keep them on
Francis Street.
Francis Street, yeah.
Hmm,
And,
wait, that was that was a ride at Palace Playland?
Yeah, you got on a, not at Palace Playland, it was on Old Orchard Street.
It's where the Grand Victorian is now.
Yeah, right there, on that, it was like near the corner of the Grand Victorian and East Grand Avenue, all right? And so they would, you'd get in and on a little cart, and the donkey would pull you through this mine, and it was kind of dark, and, you know, lights here and there and stuff.
A real donkey?
Donkeys, real donkeys, oh yeah, not,
Is like right now I was thinking like some mechanical donkey, but a real donkey, wow, yeah.
That'd be fun.
And I heard the Noah's Ark burned down.
yeah.
It's like, isn't it like, I don't know, yeah, it's like a big boat and it rocks.
Yeah.
That,
Oh yeah, that was a fun place to go to.
yeah.
Then I have to say this, and you boys will appreciate this. They used to have air hoses, so the girls would walk over this air hose, and all of a sudden it would lift their dresses up. Hoo hoo hoo. But it
What
was,
about the merry-go-round you went on, you had to pull the rings?
oh, at the beginning of the pier, look at them, see?
Yeah, now we're gonna
Oh,
get way
they're
off
boys,
subject now.
they're boys.
Yeah.
There used to be a merry-go-round, just as you went up on the pier, the merry-go-round was on the left, okay? And what you would do is, I can't believe they did this, can you?
I wasn't around then, sorry.
Oh, no, that's right too. I keep forgetting how much younger she is. And you have to hang way off on your ride, going up and down and stuff. You'd hang way over, and there was a thing that where you get a brass ring, and you'd try to grab that brass ring. I can't even remember. You were supposed to throw it back in, I guess, after you got it. You weren't supposed to keep it. And but they also had a giraffe there, Jeff the Giraffe.
Really?
I was not happy about that.
Such a creative name. Jeff.
Jeff the Giraffe.
Well,
Just after it burned down, the rings were all, you could find all the rings on the ground and everything?
Yes, yeah, they found a lot of rings, they did. And they also found rings up where the, not the, Lions Club, okay, is out there. When they were digging up that for a parking lot, they found rings out there too. Yeah.
What about your apple orchard adventures?
We had apple orchards all over Old Orchard.
yeah.
And as a matter of fact, that's how it got its name. Because,
Old Orchard.
yeah, they'd say we're going down to the old orchard. Okay, the apples are growing here. And even the Vikings, there was some story when the Vikings were touring around here and they mentioned this orchard. You know, it was probably a safer place to come in because you're protected from the worst of the storms here. And
And the good part during the winter, we don't, since we're right near a beach, the salty stuff, it kind of melts some of the snow already. I mean, like, sometimes it's a big snowstorm in the morning, but by the time in the afternoon, it's all over.
yeah,
Like, the snow's even melted. So, yeah.
So what did they use for a plow then?
the what?
How did you get around in your little Model T?
You know, this is funny, but the Model A,
Oh, sorry.
T is older.
Sorry.
The Model A. The Model A Ford had thin tires, okay, but they were much higher. If you put a Model A Ford beside a new car, the new car is lower. Well, when you're trying to go through any kind of deeper snow, oftentimes that snow will lift you up and you can't get traction. You can't be solid. While the old Model A Ford would go through all kinds of snow. It was pretty neat, really.
Had Henry Stewart already been done?
Oh,
That's what I was trying
she
to...
keeps feeding me information. Henry Stewart, okay. Henry Stewart, they didn't have the equipment back in the old days to clean the beach, okay? So they took Henry Stewart, and he had horses, and they used to be right by the town hall. Major and Colonel were the name of the horses. So Henry used to pull the horses. They had a special rake, all right? And Henry would clean the beach. In addition, in order to justify keeping Henry on year-round, right, they had him pick up trash. So Henry would go around with his wagon and,
Excuse me, just got squeezed.
and pick up trash. And he would pick up trash, and anyway, he would also,
Sorry.
it's all right.
And you know, my boy, he picks up a lot of trash.
But it was part of an era.
Yeah.
Anyway, Henry was, yeah.
Okay. This is a question for both of you. Like, have you been to like any famous bands? Like, I heard there are bands in the pier, even in the ballpark. There's like, heard Kiss, a whole bunch of rock bands, John Bon Jovi,
Aerosmith.
Just
I
about
went
to
to the
say that.
Aerosmith concert.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that was really neat. My daughter was only like 4 years old. She fell asleep during the concert.
I fell asleep during I don't know. I went to some concert with my family, and my family was nagging at me because I felt like I was like 7. Yeah. Like, did you see any like famous bands? Like,
You know what's interesting? Where we moved to on Portland Avenue, it was around 42, I think. Anyway, we were right across the street from the Cummings family. Now, the Cummings family was a black family, right? And E. Emerson Cummings used to be a math teacher in the school, okay? He graduated from Bates. Well, at the Cummings family, back in my era, they wouldn't allow blacks to stay in white places.
yes,
Okay.
we've heard. Yeah.
So the famous black bands used to stay at the Cummingses, and I used to see these people. The thing was, I wasn't old enough to realize what I was seeing, okay? And it was, to this day, and they all, well, there was a black couple that used to come every year, about almost the year I was born, and then for years, they used to come and stop and see us after they came to Old Orchard. But it's, when you think you were next door to history, and you know, and you weren't even aware, and all of a sudden when I'm older, and I start thinking, holy mackerel, you know, I saw those guys, you know, with all their equipment. I can remember they all come in.
That's what I was trying to. I remembered a famous musician, Johnny Cummings, or no, something Cummings. It's been biting at me. About 5 clips ago, yeah, the musician. Like, so you actually live next to
Across the street.
the E. Cummings. Yes, E. Cummings.
E. Cummings, Edward Emerson Cummings. Yep.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, you actually live next to them?
Across the street.
Wow. Like, I think it's sad that, like, they even segregated people back then. I mean,
Yep.
We're all the same in each and every way. I mean, everybody has something in common.
Yep.
Maybe they have a finger, an eye, an ear. Everybody has something in common.
Young man, I like your views on it. That's nice.
Yeah.
Because there's so much hate and prejudice in this world, and we don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
I have a philosophy. If you're a nice person, I like you. If you're not a nice person, I don't like you. I don't care your color. I don't care where you pray. I don't care about any of these things. If you're a decent human being, I like you. Like,
Did you used to play with one of the Cummings kids?
I used to play with the little black kids that used to come in the summer over there. And my sister was and Ann Cummings, one of the girls, it would have been Emerson's youngest sister, okay? And she went to school with them. They were real good friends. Yeah.
And Clarence?
And Clarence Roberts was another. Old Orchard was probably the only place in the state of Maine where they had 2 black men on the town council the same year. That was Emerson Cummings was on the council also, and Clarence Roberts was there, and I thought that was pretty neat. Anyway.
Like, I'm just nitpick about something, but my dad always says he doesn't like people his own age. He likes people Like when he gets along with people, he doesn't get along with people his age.
And what's your last name?
Benson.
What is it?
Benson.
Benton?
No.
Son. Benson.
Oh, Benson. Benson. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. When you have, if your dad comes in the clerk's office, tell him to say hi to Jeff.
Yeah. Now, this is my grandfather and my grandmother lived in Old Orchard back, back.
What were their names?
See, come on. Linda, and yes, Linda and Ron Benson.
What is it?
Linda and Ron Benson.
Benson. The name is vaguely familiar, but I'm not.
Because I can't believe I almost forgot my grandfather's name. We all have the same name. I'm Benson. I'm the third Benson. Exact same name.
I know all about the Plant family.
Yeah. Ronald Richard Benson the third. Then
Ronald Richard Benson the third.
Yep. Then the second, goes Ronald Richard Benson the second, then the third.
So what's Rowan?
And Ronan, my mom didn't like the name, and my dad and my mom agreed on Ronan. So
Nice.
I'm not called Ronald. Probably won't, but my name is Ronan.
I like that name. It's a good name.
What do they call you?
Ronan.
Ronan?
Yep. That's
They haven't shortened it. Usually that's the big American way, isn't it?
well,
The short names.
they just like this name. My dad even said he would change my name and again in a heartbeat. To Ronan. Yeah. Okay. That was a little too much about me, but well, yeah. I think we even if we have an extra 15. I talk a lot. Okay. What was one of your favorite things to do in OOB? Do you have a favorite thing to do in OOB now?
Well, I tell you, at my age, we're just deeply involved with that. We have 4 sons, we have 6 grandchildren, and we have 3 great-grandchildren. So that's the most fun for Colleen and I, you know? Yeah. With having your kids around and stuff, and the babies, and it's just, yeah.
I think your granddaughter goes to our school. Or is it your
Granddaughter.
Yep, granddaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlotte Thompson.
Yep.
Yep.
That's your granddaughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, she actually talked to, she said, you're interviewing my grandfather. There's a lot of families in Old Orchard Beach that are related.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's nice to have related families.
Yeah, I mean, his family's...
Yeah. Well, your grandfather and I were in school together. Okay? He was, actually, he was a tough kid. As a matter of fact...
Boxing coach.
Huh?
Boxing coach. He was all into sports.
But, yeah. He was a tough kid in school. Playing football.
Oh, I play football. We both do.
Do you?
No,
Yeah.
He's quarterback. I'm a lineman.
I played it. Then broke my thumb playing against Thornton. We only played 2 years. And now they're going to go to 8-man.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how that works out.
Wait, Thornton's changing their name? No.
8-man football.
Yeah, instead of 11, it's going to be 8-man football.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
It's actually going to be, I feel like it's going to work better for the smaller schools.
Well, that's what they feel.
Yeah.
They just don't have enough students to field a strong enough football team, you know?
We actually had like a backup for almost every
Yeah,
player.
we did. In middle
Did you?
school.
Yep. But in our school, it was a lot of our 8th graders don't do sports. I've noticed that.
They play basketball. A bunch of the 8th graders play basketball.
And some baseball, but
Yeah.
not like, it's not huge. It's,
Yep.
yeah. Off topic, but what was, like, were we all, you went to school here, right?
Yes.
So, was our mascot always the Seagulls?
Sandy
Was what?
Seagull.
Our mascot's called the Seagull.
Always.
It was,
Yeah,
it's
I
been
don't
all,
ever remember anything different.
it
Always.
was,
I'll tell you another little story quickly.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I go sideways on these things. Old Orchard was playing our team for the state championship, and it was upstate. And either that or for the playoffs. Anyway, this team had been beating everyone else by like 42-7, and you know, that kind of crazy stuff. We're thinking, holy Christmas. And they had this end, he was like 6'5" or something. I mean, you know, he could reach over anybody to catch a pass.
Scary.
Well, it was a close game all the way. I mean, and I was standing with Geyer and Maureen's sister's husband.
Tom? Coffee?
No, but anyway, we all stayed in the same place that season. We all stood just the same. We didn't want to break the luck because they were doing well. Anyway, at halftime, okay, a seagull comes and lands right down in the middle of the field. Well, the Old Orchard fans went crazy. It was the neatest thing. It was almost like a publicity stunt, right? And we ended up winning. Anyway, it was a close game, but they won. But I'll never forget that seagull.
It feels like every like road game I go to for football, it feels like there's always at least one seagull just like flying around. It's funny.
Maybe it's an omen, right?
Yeah.
yeah, my dad called me the Trojan Seagull because I actually played for, I did wrestling in soccer, in Trojan, and I did, at the time I think OOB, I was doing an OOB sport too, so, and together he called me the Trojan Seagull. And so every time I think of seagulls, I just think of a little seagull with armor on.
That's neat.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. We haven't even got through all the trophy. Okay. Good. Okay. What was one you... No, I already said that one. What made you want to stay in OOB as an adult? Do you still feel that way?
Read that again.
What made you stay... No, what made you want to stay in OOB as an adult?
You know, it's funny because there were many times that I thought about, after I was married, about moving up somewhere, and we thought it'd be nice to have a few acres of land and go upstate and all this kind of stuff. But the jobs I had, or the job I had, was here, you know, and at that point in time, there weren't too many places I could go, okay? And I guess we're going beyond our time.
We still have 15 minutes left.
Oh. Anyway.
Yeah, we're fine.
So anyway, I almost left one time to go work for New England Tel, and they offered me Boston, Providence, and Springfield, Mass. And I got down there, and I thought, I hate the city. Just hated the city. And there's a fascination with Old Orchard, even like moving out. We'd think about it and then we'd say, nah, you know. And
hold off a few more years.
It's home and you're used to it. And you know, the beauty about here is, of course, especially when you're older and you have doctors and hospitals that are cold, you know, when you're old, your chances of things happening are pretty great. But everything is convenient here now. right?
everything's
I mean,
walking.
And in 20 minutes, you can be out in the pucker brush somewhere, right? I mean, you can be out in the country in 20 minutes, go up through Biddeford, Saco, or, you know, and just so you can get away. You know, I'd hate to live around the Boston area. Absolutely hate it.
Traffic is
Oh, no.
like a nice country house near a lake.
It's always calm here. It's like chill, like
Until the tourists
just
come.
nice here.
Yep.
Good home.
How about the bank you worked in and where it was located? In Old Orchard.
Oh, okay. I was manager of the bank. Well, first it was Canal Bank, and then Canal was taken over by Key Bank. And so right in back of the town hall, on our other parking lot, there was a round, all-glass bank. At one time, it was the only round, all-glass bank in the country. It wasn't very big, and it was built by Joseph Deering, who owned the Deering Lumber Company in Saco. But it was neat, you know. And,
It was all glass. Like
pardon?
the building was kind of like surrounded.
Well, I mean, it had steel frames, but it had big glass windows all around,
Oh.
from the ceiling to the ground, and that was pretty neat. And
The safe was in the basement,
oh yeah,
the bank safe.
we were we used to down in the basement. We used to count, since we were the only bank, and the Saco and Biddeford Savings couldn't have checking accounts. So all the businesses in the village, just about, maybe a few of them went to Biddeford or something, but primarily they all came to us. And so we used to have table loads of money. And I can remember we had this big long, probably an 8-foot table, and we had all the money cashed. And one of the big VPs came down with somebody else, and they were inspecting, and he walks down, and we have this huge amount of money, and he says, "I'm out of here." But anyway, it was pretty nice. A lot of fun working.
Yeah.
And in your hometown, you know a lot of people, you know.
Like, I mostly know, I don't know about Brady, but I know mostly, I get a little lost, like, past the pier. I mean, like, once you go out of the pier, like, I get a little lost, but I ride my bike to the pier, back. I mean, it's a nice small town. I mean, I walk to school, I don't take the bus. Sometimes it's nice.
Oh yeah, you know, and you'll always have you wherever you're going, right? And the odds of you staying locally are slim today. You know, the odds are you have to go where the jobs are, right?
Yeah, like,
you know, unfortunately. I mean, don't worry about that at your age, but
some people either love their job or love where they live, and it's hard to get both.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
try to remember this. When I got out of the service, they gave you did intelligence tests and answered all kinds of questions and everything else. And the man that conducted it for me, with me, said, "Be what makes you happy." You know, like we think, go out and where can I make the most money? You know, it's all these kind of things. But so many people end up in jobs and they're putting 40 hours a week in. That's something they do not like. And lots of the big jobs too, they take a lot of your time. They want the special meetings and you have to travel or something, and there's all kinds of downsides, you know, for people. So be what makes you happy. If you never remember anything else, remember that. It's a much happier week. Okay.
he has a question.
Yes.
It's kind of off topic, but like, what was your favorite restaurant like back then, and what's your favorite restaurant now?
Holy mackerel.
Like downtown, like favorite place to like stop and get some food.
Okay, this is interesting in a way, because way back when I was young, the only time we went to a restaurant was once a year, and that was at school shopping. And we might go to Biddeford. They used to have a lot of stores on the main street in Biddeford. Or we might go to Portland. You know, we'd take the bus in and go to Portland. And I can remember in Portland, they had the same named restaurant as they did in Biddeford, which was the Puritan. And but today, you know, it depends on what you want for food.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my wife and I eat out a lot. You know, we go to different places and we try different places. And, holy mackerel.
It's like seafood, and then you get like French fries and pizza. And
Or Italian food.
Yeah.
Give me degrees. Or an old place, Ocean Pizza. That was sad when that came down.
You know, I'm not sure anymore, because somebody tells us another recommendation, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, people come in, customers or friends or the group, Kim and Charlene that I work with. She's the boss, by the way. She's the boss lady. And I'm not really sure any longer. There's places I'm not even going to say the places I don't like anymore, because that's not right.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. It's funny, sometimes you go to a restaurant, say you get fish, and it's elegant, and the next time you go there, it's not so great.
It's like,
yeah.
So consistency is a big thing, and I can't even answer, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, wish I could tell you, but
Because every day you're
I can
feeling
tell you
something
one thing,
different.
I like ice cream.